Today we're going to make a succulent terrarium, this succulent terrarium. Here's our succulents. We have a wide variety. We have our drainage layer and we have our succulent soil. I also like to use a variety of tools when I'm planting a terrarium. Anything from the kitchen would work: a spoon, a stick, and a pair of scissors. Now the first thing we're going to do with our succulent terrarium is put down a drainage layer. Now this is really important because succulents do not like water collecting around their roots. And you need to be able to let the water drain to the bottom and get away from the roots, or your succulents will rot and die. So we're going to put the Josh's Frogs decorative drainage layer into our glass cube here. And you want to have about a ½ inch of a layer. You need a good thick layer and a place for the water to drain so it'll pull the water away from the soil. And also this looks nice. When you have a glass container that you're making a terrarium in, you can use a variety of different drainage layers because obviously you can see it. So use your imagination and make it interesting looking. So here we have a good layer, I'd say about 3/4 of an inch. And now we're going to put our succulent soil in. And I want to fill it up to the top. Just push it and pack it as you dump it in. Don't pack it too hard. And we don't want to fill it all the way to the top because we're going to displace some soil as we're planting it out with our plants. Now for succulents, you want to choose a glass terrarium or any other type of terrarium that doesn't really have sides. Succulents don't do well in terrariums that are enclosed or have high sides. Succulents don't like to be moist. They need to have good air circulation and dry air around them. If you absolutely have to build a succulent terrarium in a terrarium that has high sides and has a high level of moisture, you'll probably end up having to change out your plants about every 6 months or so. But it's best just to plant them in something that has low sides like this. They sit right on the top and they get good air circulation. Now here I have Echeveria setosa, and this is my main plant, the main focal point. So I'm going to start with my biggest main plant first. I'm going to remove the soil, as much of it as I can, from around the roots. And of course this will happen when you're planting a terrarium. Don't panic, it's okay. It's not going to hurt the plant to lose a leaf or two. I'm going to use my tools. You want to dig a hole in the soil, move it over, and plant your main succulent. And turn it around so the best side of it is towards the front, where you're going to be viewing it. So you want to pack it in gently, not too tight. Succulents like air movement and around their soils, and they like the water to drain quickly. The next plant we'll be planting is the one in the left back, Ripsalis paradoxa. I wanted something that gives a little interest to the terrarium. I like something medium size, something tall, something that hangs over. Of course you could plant it with all the same sized plants. That'll look just fine too, but this particular terrarium, I like the different sizes and the different types of plants. So we're going to remove the soil from the Ripsalis. Now you don't have to be so gentle, but try not to bust the plant up, and you really don't want to tear apart the roots too much. So just try to remove as much soil as you can gently and make a hole and plant and press. Now turn the plant so it looks attractive. You want, of course, the best side forward. I'm going to push the soil down as I go. There, that looks pretty interesting. The next plants I'll be planting are these right here in the front, lower so they don't obscure the plant in the back. And these are Echeveria Graptoveria Debbies. And I have a bunch of them here, just little ones, so I'm just going to fit them in randomly in the front. These are nice low growers. And now this is a little cluster, and they can all be separated if that's the way you want to do it. I like the cluster look, and that's kind of the look I'm going for. Now this is pretty messy, so you should probably put down some protective covering on your surface that you're working on so you don't have to worry about the mess. I'm just going to place that there, gently pushing the soil underneath. And use your tools. If you need to, take some of the soil and build it up, making sure there's good contact with the roots. I'm going to add a little bit more soil. And then I'll take the next pot. I think I'll go with these. And I might break these up if they don't fit. You don't want to remove the soil again. And just take your time and work them into your design, whatever looks best. I'm going to put that one there. Make sure you push the soil around the roots to make good contact. Again, just like that. And I don't think I'm going to use these two. We'll see when we plant the next one. Building a terrarium is kind of a creative process, and you just kind of have to sometimes see how it goes as you're building it. You might not need all the plants you originally thought, or you might need more. And the next plant to be planted is this plant right here. This is the string of bananas. So I'm going to take this, shake it out, remove much of the soil as I can. So I have a little spot for it to fit in. And again, I'm going to check the plant to see which looks best, which way I want it to hang. And I think actually that's all right there. Make a hole and put your roots down. Make sure you have good contact with the soil and fill in the empty spots. Of course, you'll have to move things around and adjust. And the plants will grow and fill in. So you probably want to keep the plants on the smaller side and let them acclimate to the terrarium that you're planting. So now what I want to do is I'm ready to water my terrarium. I'm going to brush off the excess soil, or it'll make a muddy mess. Now when watering succulents, it's always best to err on the side of caution and keep them drier. You don't want to overwater a succulent garden. That's the fastest way to kill your succulents. So I'm going to start by washing off my plants very quickly. Just want to get the leaves clean of all the soil. And like I said, you're going to make a mess, so you probably want to put a protective covering down on whatever surface you're working on. And this is a glass terrarium, so I can actually see how much I'm watering, which is really nice, so you know when you're getting to the point where you should stop the watering. So I'm going to check the soil, make sure I'm not already too wet. Remember, err on the side of caution and keep it dry. I'm going to water this a little bit, and I'm going to give it a chance to drain down. And that's what your drainage layer is for. It's to protect the roots of the plant, and all the excess water will drain down and accumulate in the drainage layer, and it'll pull all that water out of the soil. Now, a succulent won't rot right away. It happens slowly after time, and you probably won't even notice it for a number of months. A succulent doesn't react as quickly as other plants react. So I want to clean it off, and this looks pretty good. I think I wet it good, and it's good drainage. It's draining down into the drainage layer. And I think I want to wait a little while. It's probably best because you want to give it all a chance to drain down. You don't want to overwater, and then after an hour or so, it actually works its way through the soil, and the next thing you know, you have too much water. It's always easier to add more water because you can't take the water away. Now I want to place my succulent terrarium in a bright light, indirect. Don't put it in direct hot sunlight. I want to place it in a position in my home where there's good air circulation, not a lot of moisture. If you have your succulent garden in a spot where it's not getting enough light, what you'll see starting to happen are the succulents will start stretching, and they'll get really tall and spindly looking. That's a sure sign that it needs more light. If the succulents are in a place where it's not bright enough, you'll start to see splotching and brown spots on your leaves, and that's a sign that you need to give it more light. Just don't put it in direct sunlight all day long where it can bake. And here we have our finished succulent terrarium.